I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market.
Yeah, arrogance in the employment market. But it's totally not arrogant to be this guy and be like, yeah, we got to get these slaves back in order. These uppity workers, they're starting to think that they actually have rights. Can you believe that? They think they have rights? That's not arrogance. It's arrogance to want to be able to feed your children. It's arrogance to want to be able to keep the lights on and not have to work 70 hours a week to do it. This is a very viral clip that's going around, and it's good that it is. From Kenny Clips, has a clip from the Property Summit, or whatever that is. A landlord extravaganza? Who knows? A bunch of capital owners get together. Property developer and CEO Tim Gurner here has some words about the economy. So obviously, Bidenomics is actually doing pretty well for the economy, much to the chagrin of right-wingers in this country. Yeah, obviously, it's not as good as it could be. But like Biden's NLRB at the very least is popping the hell off and making a lot of good pro-worker moves. And obviously unionization is through the roof. And COVID made people realize that, well, for one, there's a variety of things that they are required to do in their jobs, like show up to an office and all this kind of stuff that they don't really have to do because work from home blew up over COVID because of social distancing. And now, CEOs and corpos are grappling with the negative consequences of their profit margin because they don't actually care about their workers. They just care about making more money. So here, Mr. Sixhead is going to give us some thoughts on that. Some surely well-reasoned, well-formulated opinions on the matter.
I think the problem that we've had is that
oh God, I forgot he was an oi, bruv. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, we have... People decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore.
Or is he Aussie? Aussies are essentially oi bruvs that want to be American.
Through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back.
Nah, he's an Aussie, okay.
Productivity, they have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40-50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around.
Like, are you insane? My friend, these are the things you're supposed to be saying in your private meetings with your other corpo buddies. Like, you're not supposed to say this. You know when people say, they said the quiet part out loud, wow, that's what you're doing, my friend. What the hell is this? So for as much as Republicans, Democrats, and those politicians sympathetic to the corpos, and people, sympathetic to the workers as well, because obviously unemployment affects workers as well, as much as they bitch and moan about unemployment being high, well, it seems like they also benefit from unemployment being high because they have people in these property summits who apparently have some amounts of vocal sway or import in the broader industry, literally saying they need to see unemployment rise. By the way, these are the same people who are defended by mainstream media publications whenever workers go on strike, whenever there are work stoppages, right? These are the same people that go on Fox Business and talk about, oh, these workers and the work stoppages, they're going to hurt so many consumers and it's going to be so bad for the consumer and yada, yada, yada. It's going to be so bad for the economy. And CEOs are literally reaping the benefits of turmoil in the economy. They're literally doing this and they're advocating for more of it. They're like, oh, yeah, Biden has actually made it so that unemployment is a lot lower than it was before. And that's bad for us, actually, in the CEO class. Because, when we sip our wine and we get a nice wet suck on our cigars in our back rooms, and we're doing fine when the economy's in turmoil, these people are suffering. And that makes it so that we have a bigger pool of people that we can exploit. Because you'd be like, oh, well, Connor, why the fuck would these CEOs want there to be more unemployment? Why would they want that? Don't they want people to work for them so they can produce the goods or services that the company produces so they can make money off of that? And you'd think, yeah. But the whole gambit here is that they think workers have gotten too uppity. They've gotten too big for their britches. They've started to realize that if they collectively organize, they can bargain for better wages rather than begging for better wages and working conditions as an individual worker, right? They've realized that strikes and work stoppages actually are a good way of bringing these corpos to the table and actually giving the workers a fairer shake. Unions are on the rise. Biden's NLRB has done a lot of good shit against union busting as well. And this is a cry for help. A hit dog will holler. they are really worried about this rising labor momentum, this labor rights momentum, that they're like, okay, well, we need to whip these dogs back into shape. We got to remind these people who their betters are. We got to remind these people that we're at the top for a reason and they're below us because they are peasants, because they are serfs. Like, that's literally what he's saying. And the idea there is that, oh, well, if unemployment's really low, these people will be so desperate that they'll be willing to work in worse conditions for less pay, because what other options do they have? So it's not that unemployment is high because of a variety of factors outside of the corpo's control or whatever. He's literally advocating that the corpos get together and manufacture an unemployment crisis to whip these serfs, these wage slaves, back into shape so that they stop actually thinking that they have rights. That's literally what he's saying. And they're willing to eat whatever associated costs to their bottom line in order to do that, because it is an investment into the future. If they can continue to exploit workers and if they can beat back this labor tide, well, then they can make more money into the future. They're thinking into the future. They'll eat a short-term hit, if there is any short-term hit, for whatever chicanery they get up to, in order to make sure they have better profits later on, and they derive those profits by paying you less money, making you work for longer hours with less good working conditions, so that their shareholders get a couple extra doubloons each quarter.
We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50%, in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around.
And unfortunately, this guy doesn't live in reality. He lives in a bubble, because reality dictates that, actually, yes, every single employer is lucky to have the workers they have, because absent those workers, they would not be able to produce the goods and services that they require in order to make their money. That's the entire game. There was this guy with a big beard that kind of talked about this a long time ago. I forget what his name is. What was it? Marcus or something like that? I don't know. He said something about it. But essentially, if every single worker in an industry or in a corporation stopped working and went on strike, who is going to produce the goods and services that make these people money? Nobody, unless they hire scabs, people that are specifically hired, usually promised more money than an average worker would get in order to work through the strike to make the hit to the corpo less, extreme, which you should never do. You should never accept that, because it's a fucking negative to you in the long run. It's very short-sighted to accept being a scab. Scabs don't pick it. Like, the workers have finally realized the reality of the situation. The wool has been pulled from their eyes, and workers are no longer as subject or as willing to go along with the propaganda they're fed from the owner class, like this fucking douchebag, that they realize that without the workers, this guy is nothing. Right? Without the workers, this guy won't be able to afford the eventual hair plugs and hairline adjustment that he'll need, because this six head is getting a bit out of hand, right? He won't be able to achieve his third mega yacht. So he's saying we need to whip these wage slaves back into order, because they're starting to think that they have rights, and that if they collectively organize, they hold all of the power over the employer, because he's delusional.
So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely...
Yeah, and by the way, work shortages, by the way. We got a labor shortage across the world. Nobody wants to work anymore. Meanwhile, this dipshit is just probably angering a variety of other corpos by saying it out loud that, oh no, actually, these labor shortages, they might have been briefly during a global pandemic that claimed the lives of millions, that was airborne, and therefore social distancing was required, and it wreaked havoc on a variety of people's jobs. Not only did CEOs make insane amounts of money in spite of that, because of a variety of golden parachutes that the government provided them, as well as a variety of other bullshit they probably got up to, they're saying that, oh no, we're actually going to manufacture it. We're going to invent it, right? The labor shortage is real as long as we say it is. Stay in line, sheeple. Don't fight for your rights. Don't talk to your fellow coworkers. Don't organize for better wages. We control all of this. Get back in line. It's literally what he's saying. And this is not something to be scared of, I don't think. it's something to be very proud of that this clip exists, because this is desperation. This is a profound amount of worry from this guy and other corpo capitalists like him, that they realize that people are waking up, that people understand that if they get together and organize, they can get better wages and working conditions. And it's not even to say that the ultimate goal of a lot of these workers, who are probably just like average everyday Joes that aren't like these hyper-communist, Marxist, Maoist, third worldists, they're just regular fucking people wanting to get a better life and actually achieve the American dream. The goals for people like that would literally allow corpos and CEOs to still be pretty fucking wealthy, right? But they're like greedy dragons, which is frankly offensive to dragons, and I apologize to the dragon community. They're like greedy dragons hoarding gold for no fucking reason other than they want to see number go up because it's the only way they can justify their existence as a person. They have nothing else to offer to society other than the fact that they have a large number of gold coins underneath their big bellies. You know, back in the fables, people used to cut the heads off of dragons and slay them because they were enemies of, you know, the humans. And this guy's a bit scared that, you know, I don't know, maybe people understand some history.
Laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market.
Yeah, arrogance in the employment market, but it's totally not arrogant to be this guy and be like, yeah, we got to get these slaves back in order. We got to make sure that these uppity workers, they're starting to think that they actually have rights. Can you believe that? They think they have rights? That's not arrogance. It's arrogance to want to be able to feed your children. It's arrogance to want to be able to keep the lights on and not have to work 70 hours a week to do it.
And that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
People in history used to have a quick fix to dudes like this. And obviously we've evolved in society. We could throw them in jail, you know? Throw away the key. I believe in restorative justice. Perhaps he can get better and get out on good behavior. As long as we fucking reform our prison system or reinvent it entirely. Anyway, apparently this is, at least the Surfs posted this. Apparently this is the same millionaire that was very popular for saying that if millennials wanted to buy a home, they should stop buying avocado toast. I don't know if he was the first person to do it, but he might have been, and that's really fucking funny to me if he is. But here we have Shawn Fain, president of the UAW, on this exact issue about strikes hurting the economy, whereas this is essentially a capital strike that this guy is advocating for. Well, what if workers go on strike? What if labor goes on strike? What's going to happen? Here's Shawn Fain with Jake Tapper, not a porn name, shockingly.
For their fair share, it's always the end of the world. And you know, no one, you know, the last 4 years in general, okay, in the last decade, these companies made $250 billion in profit. In the last 6 months alone, they made $21 billion in profit. In the last 4 years, the price of cars went up 30%. CEO pay went up 40%. No one said a word. No one had any complaints about that. But now, God forbid that workers actually ask for their fair share of equity in the fruits of the labor and the product they produce, and all of a sudden it's the end of the world. So, you know, if you know, the talking heads, the pundits, the companies want to say that, you know, if we strike, it can wreck the economy. It's not that we're going to wreck the economy. We're going to wreck their economy, the economy that only works for the billionaire class. It doesn't work for the working class.
Hear that, analysts? All right, UAW President Shawn Fain, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it, sir. We did invite the big three automakers to come on.
I don't know that Corpo Jake Tapper is particularly excited about that snippet coming out on his show on CNN, because he's never been the greatest pundit. There are some decent ones out there, like Mehdi Hassan is really good for MSNBC. Chris Hayes is pretty decent on MSNBC as well. There's a couple good pundits in mainstream media that are further to the left. Jake Tapper has never been one of them. It's really good from Shawn Fain. And that this is the kind of aggressive messaging that I feel like we need. Because unions have been on the other side of aggressive messaging for so long, to the point where you have a variety of bills getting put into place by corporate politicians, usually Republicans, but also Democrats, that make it harder to form a union, or make it so that people don't have to pay union dues if they don't want to, meaning that you end up draining the money that unions use to provide benefits to their workers, et cetera, et cetera. And it hurts their ability to organize and collectively bargain, which is ultimately a net good for the capitalists, for the corporations. And a variety of other anti-union measures. Luckily, under, you know, communist Joe Brandon and his NLRB and his, you know, his labor section of his administration, there's actually been some good shit. going on where you can't really union bust that well anymore. And we hope to see this continue, this kind of momentum continue. Now, it's obviously not set in stone currently, but unions are on the up and up where previously they were incredibly low because of a variety of right-wing attacks against them. And capitalists are getting scared. They're getting a little spooked. And you love to see it. There's nothing more I like than seeing a scared little piggy.